there's so many connections running through my mind that I can't help to be a tad bit of controversial as well.
Please.
So we do know that during the count of the Omer, on the 33rd day, we celebrate or observe that which is called Lag Omer, which celebrates the death anniversary of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar, one of the greatest Tanaim of his era at that, and one of the greatest sages within the oral tradition, generally speaking. What I find interesting about that date and this connection is that I want to make sure my screen is being shared. Okay, great. What I find interesting about this date is as you are beginning to open up and show a correlation in Leviticus 12 and the clean and unclean, or the purity and impurity regarding a woman during childbirth, and we now arrive at verse 4 where we're talking about for a period of 33 days she shall not touch any consecrated thing, and you focus on this time and correlate it with Lag Omer. What I find interesting is, remember everyone, I said this from the very outset, in the context of discussing Leviticus 12 and even 13, Leviticus, let me say this first. Leviticus 13, everyone, is Metzora, right? That's the leper. Starting at Leviticus 12 through 13, the sages open up a greater dialogue within the context of these two chapters to discuss the Mashiach and his arrival and his coming. And in Leviticus 12, relating to the woman and her impurity during childbirth, the sages correlate that with the birth pangs of the Mashiach, the time that precedes it, the coming of the Mashiach. But then in the following chapter, Leviticus 13, which is the chapter of the Metzora or the leper, guess what conversation is being held there? In Sanhedrin 98a, what does the rabbi say is the name of the Mashiach? He shall be called the leper scholar of the house of Rebbe. Why is the Mashiach called a leper scholar? Because just as it's written in Isaiah 53 that he was despised and afflicted and considered smitten by God, so it is that a leper in that sense is shunned and rejected by the people. So in the oral tradition, one of the names for the Mashiach is to call him the leper scholar. So when we're discussing Leviticus 13, the sages or Chazal correlate that with Sanhedrin 98 in the oral tradition, where they're talking about Mashiach as a leper scholar. So remember, in Leviticus 12, there's a correlation with Passover there. Why are we talking about Passover in some sense? And we're also having a conversation about the Mashiach, right? You can see it here in Leviticus 12 and 6. Look at what the mother has to bring. On the completion of her period of purification for either a son or a daughter, she shall bring to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting a lamb in the first year for a burnt offering, and a pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering. So it's interesting that within the general context of talking about the Mashiach, we again have this conversation about a lamb being offered for sin. We also have this conversation of the Mashiach being described as the leper scholar, which is the preceding or the following chapter. So much conversations can be had from these two chapters and are being held within the context of the oral tradition. And I just want to remind everybody, while we may not have the time to do that today, that's exactly what we're going to be doing in tomorrow night's Torah class. So make sure you guys jump on to our Torah class, go to patreon.com, sign up, because we're going to be showing the connections between all of the aforementioned. And I can tell you this, it's going to be powerful. Rav Mordechai, we've reached pretty much the close of our dialogue. Is there anything else that you want to look at?
Yeah, I want to bring. I want to bring one more. Just one more point, and I think it brings everything full circle. It's amazing. We can't even get.
And take your time, because you're the rabbi here. I don't want to rush you. Take your time.
No. It's good. But I'm saying, how great is it that we have so much content that we could barely get past a few verses in an hour and a half? Barely. That's amazing.
And we literally could have stayed on the first two and not even gone anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So there's at the end. So one of the things is like this. This is the key idea. I think it brings it together. After a woman's pregnancy, like, so there's a famous statistic that I think is close to 80% of women after birth experience depression.